Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Hits Different Talk this American Diabetes Month. My name is Abby Bornemeyer, and I am the Social Media and Digital Events Manager here at the American Diabetes Association. And this month's theme is Today's Diabetes Hits Different. So we've been really working on sharing as many stories of as many people living with diabetes as we can this month to show, too, how diabetes hits different for so many people. So if you're tuning in right now, we'd love for you to put in the comments where you're tuning in from, but just get ready to be inspired and connect with our guest. I'm really excited to introduce you to her. She has an incredible story, and let's learn how diabetes hits different for Niketa. Niketa, we're so happy to have you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing today?
I'm getting better. I'm glad I have my voice for this.
Oh,
I have
absolutely.
this lingering cough and my voice is slowly coming back.
Oh no. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank
You
you.
can rest your voice too after this a little bit. But yeah, could you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, yes, my name is Niketa Calame-Harris, and I am a type 1 diabetic since 1999. And I currently am the chair for the Advocacy Committee at the American Diabetes Association for Southern California. And in my professional world, I am an actress and a professor and photographer.
Wow, that's awesome. You must be busy, busy, busy. I'd love to know a little bit more. Could you talk a little bit about what your role is with being the chair of the advocacy committee here at the
Yeah.
ADA?
So we have a number of different committees. We have our Congress at Home, well, not since the pandemic, but we used to have bi-yearly um, call to Congress, which we would go to DC for, believe it was like a 3-day event. The first day was training, the second day was lobbying on the Hill, and then the third day was like a wrap up, and then you talk about when congressmen and women come back home, and then you kind of continue on that conversation. So that's the Congress at Home, and then we have Safe at School, which deals with advocacy for kids and nurses and teachers, and that coalition collaboration with safety at school living with diabetes. um, and then we're getting started back up with our speakers bureau, which is another committee. And so the advocacy committee holds all those together, and we kind of talk about what each person's doing, and I facilitate that.
That's awesome. And how long have you been a part of the advocacy committee for?
Well, I've been a part as a member since I want to say like 2011 when I first did call to Congress, but I've been the chair just this like past year.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like a
Well,
full circle.
thank you so much for being involved with it. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us now too, we're here with Niketa, and she's talking a little bit about her type 1 journey today and how diabetes hits different for her. So if you have any questions throughout this, please put them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you and make this as conversational and interactive as we can. And it looks like someone commented already, Niketa. It said, "You
I
are a
did.
powerhouse. Thank you for all you do."
Oh,
So
thank you.
that's amazing. Aw. So to kind of just jump right in now, would you be able to share a little bit about, what your diagnosis was like? What was going through your mind when you were diagnosed?
Okay. So I was a little older for type 1. Well, maybe not now, but back then I was older. So it was my freshman year, the end of my freshman year in college. And I had all the symptoms. I was like losing weight, but not doing anything to lose weight. I could go through like a whole pack of Capri Sun in like a few hours. And I was running to the bathroom all the time. It had gotten so bad that I couldn't even make it to the bathroom all the time. So I was like having accidents, that like loose bladder. I think I had some kind of like ear infection or some kind of like outward infection. And then by time I got home that summer, I never forget I was at Bob's Big Boy with my mom, and all I had was a mango, and I ran to the bathroom and vomited. And I was like, okay, I was like, we got to go to emergency. And so we went to emergency at Kaiser Cadillac. And the nurse was like, oh, those symptoms sound like you're dehydrated. So just drink some Gatorade and go home. And luckily, me and my mom were both like adamant about no, something's wrong. Like I
Mhm.
want to have many sizes. And in college, it's weird because you're like, oh, I could buy anything I want. I look cute. But then after a while, it was like not cute anymore. And I was like, no, this weight loss is weird. And it turned out I was in ketoacidosis, like the numbers were like almost 1,000 or something. So like if I didn't go, I might not be sitting here with you today if I didn't go like that day. And so I ended up being there, I think for about a week or so. They wouldn't let me leave until I could. They used to have these like an orange or something, and you had to give the orange a shot because you have to physically give yourself a shot. So after they figured everything out, um, they said I couldn't leave until I give myself a shot.
Mhm.
And then after that, I was kind of back on my own and at home and in college. Um, so it was different being a little older. Um, yeah, it was different.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing about your diagnosis story. And I mean, being a freshman in college it's hard enough as it is. You're away from home, you're already learning just a new, way of living and so many new experiences that happened during that year. So I can't even imagine like how hard that was hearing that you had diabetes. Did you like, I guess, how did you process it?
I didn't even really like all you see is like type 2 with the in the heat of the night guy. There used to be this commercial like I'll take care of my diabetes. Um, and then all I knew about type 1 was still Magnolias, where Julia Roberts like died because she wanted to have a baby and she had type 1. So that's all I knew about type 1. So I remember the first thing I asked my doctor in the hospital, one, I was like, will I still be able to be an actress? And two, I was like, will I be able to have a baby? Um, and at the time, he didn't even talk about the baby part, but he was like, "Well, I think Holly Berry has type 1, so I think you'll be fine in terms of like your career and passions." Um, and that was kind of all he told me about it. They really didn't kind of drill in the importance of the different things, and I don't know if that's because I was in transition and going right back to school. Um, and not really knowing to call on like the doctors on campus. So it was kind of just like on breaks, I would see doctors like spring break, Easter break. So it was kind of rough in the beginning.
Absolutely. That sounds like it. I mean, and to not, I mean, you have this, you don't know. You're going to college because, you have these ambitions and hopes for the future of things that you want to do and accomplish. And then you're like,
Yeah.
wait, but can I do this still?
Yeah.
And obviously, you proved you can. You've done a lot of
With some
amazing
health
things.
challenges, but yes.
Right, with some challenges, but you have, which is awesome, but it is scary, and, I think too over the years, things have gotten like, now with all the resources and everything that is available, I think there places and, healthcare providers are doing a better job of educating, patients so you don't feel so alone, especially when you're going through a diagnosis like that, 'cause that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And then my junior year, I went over, I went abroad for a year.
Oh,
So
wow.
my poor mom was probably like, like praying every night.
Where did you go abroad?
I went to University of Exeter in, England, it was south of London, so I
Oh,
was
wow.
totally away from everything, um, and I only had one incident where I went low in the middle of the night, and I was, like, crawling to the RA's room, and I was like, "Sugar, sugar," um, but other than that, it was pretty okay, but I didn't get the, like, what I call the right care until grad school in New York, and I would with a more research-based doctor, and he was like, "Oh, you're on the wrong kind of insulin, you need to be on this." Like, I was still on NPH and regular and mixing 70/30 mix, I was not in the best, management care for type 1. So, thankful for him to get me, like, on Humalog and kind of
Mhm.
really telling me what things are happening in my body. So that was a blessing.
Absolutely. And like you said too, like you don't know exactly, I guess, you get this diagnosis and you don't know what you're told certain things by that doctor, and another doctor might, have something totally different to say. But I think it's important to, just find that team that, you can trust and works for you and is there to support you ultimately and knows, exactly what you're going through and what you're doing and the resources that you do need for your journey. So, I mean, I'm
And
glad that you
it
did
wasn't
find that.
until getting involved, which was 2011. I was diagnosed in 1999. I got
Mhm.
involved with the ADA in 2011, and that was the first time I met someone who had type 1 diabetes
In 2011?
in
Wow.
2011. So I was pretty much, because like I said, I mean, in the communities of color and just my surroundings and people talking about their parents, it was just all type 2. So um, it was a lonely road until I started getting active.
Yeah,
So
I
that
mean,
really helped.
it definitely is hard to be doing something like that all on your own and feeling like that.
Yeah.
There's so many people though out there who do live with type 1, and there's a whole community here always to support you and, everyone who's tuning in if you feel, like Niketa did. It's hard to do it all alone. It looks like someone named Julie just commented, "What a time we had." She must have
Oh,
had a
yes,
similar.
Julie.
Do you know who Julie is? Oh,
Yes. She's my diasis. She was
oh,
one of the first people I met with type 1, my
wow.
first call to Congress.
Wow. See, getting involved with, organizations like the ADA and really just finding a support group too, because there are other people out there, living and going through what you are going through. So having people you can relate with and connect with, it's so important and it makes the journey just it's a lot not easier. I guess you just feel just much more supported along the way,
Yeah.
having
And
that and a lot more
somebody
confidence.
somebody said they were diagnosed the end of their senior year, in high school. She said, "Did I notice any changes in my grades or memory?" Um, I didn't notice any changes, and back then, we didn't have, like, College Diabetes Network or anything like
Mm,
that.
mhm.
Um, so I didn't even know that I could request, like, have extra time for tests and all these other different kind of things. So I was really kinda, in the dark for a while. But
Yeah,
now there's, like, loads of aids and tools,
right, there's so
either
many,
way.
and school related too. If you go to diabetes.org/safe at school, there's
Mhm.
so many, resources, just about diabetes in the school setting as well, and there's, like, a whole area where you can learn, what your rights are in the school setting and for parents who have children with diabetes. Definitely so important, to check those out. But yeah, I mean, so you've noticed a lot of different changes and everything over the years, living with them with diabetes. So Niketa, would you be able to talk a little bit about maybe like some of the physical and mental challenges though that you've experienced since your diagnosis?
Yes, well, I wanna say, so I was diagnosed in 1999, then I, like, went overseas in, like, 2001, um, and I wanna say my numbers were like a roller coaster that whole time, pretty much until grad school, which was, like, 2002. So, I think that on top of not having some of these management tools back then, like the continuous glucose monitor, and just really having a real idea of what it all was and what did it mean, um, to take it 30 minutes before, so that when it spikes and then your, sugars from your food, they could hit right. Like, I didn't know all of that. So I
Mhm.
have 2 complications from diabetes. I have neuropathy in my legs and feet, nerve damage in my legs and feet, and then I have, gastroparesis, which is nerve damage in my stomach, which that diet totally contradicts diabetes diet. So I'm always with my doctors, like, playing guessing games and figuring things out on a daily basis.
Right. Wow. I mean, that is a lot, and a lot of changes that you have experienced and
Yeah.
challenges over the years.
So
So
mentally, I've had stretches of like, woman warrior,
I can
and then
do it.
I've had stretches of why me. I've
Right.
had stretches of, oh my God, it's 300 in the morning. I didn't eat anything.
What did I do?
What did I do? Yeah, yeah. The things that are like not in your control, that
Right.
you kind of beat yourself up for. But I've been lucky to have family and people around me who are very supportive. My husband, when we were dating, he was very involved. We're married, he's still very involved. And I do have a daughter, so it is possible, for all the doctors who some did tell me, oh, I should adopt because I have type 1 and all this kind of stuff. But I do have a daughter. We got pregnant during the pandemic. So she's about to be 2 next month.
Congratulations.
And
That's
I breastfed,
awesome.
which also they said was gonna be challenging with type 1, but, we're actually still breastfeeding, so
Well, that's amazing. And see, you can still do those things, having diabetes or not.
yeah.
Everything that you wanted in your life and wanted to do before your diagnosis, you're still able to do. I mean, but there's challenges along the way and road bumps, but you can still do those things. And for everyone who's watching too, like don't let your diabetes define you. Keep pushing and keep going, keep being ambitious and keep chasing your dreams and don't stop. Just don't stop because you have diabetes.
Thanks.
So Niketa, also too, I mean, you've had a lot of challenges over the years, and I know you said that your husband and the family members have all been supportive, and that's a big help for you, for your mental health. But are there any other areas that you're maybe involved in, or maybe like what you do for your career that help manage your mental health at all?
Well, I am an actress and I have been since I was a kid. So one of my first roles when I was well, one of my first big roles, because I did like commercials and stuff before. But I was the voice of young Nala in The Lion King in the 1994 animated feature film. Um,
Oh, cool.
and After that, I was like Chris Rock's little sister in CB4, and so I was kind of like doing a movie a year, and then I kind of stopped for high school because I got involved in musical theater and drama, and I wanted to, go to prom and go to do normal things. And then I used to watch A Different World, so I was like, I'm definitely going to college. um, so I wanted to go to college, and luckily I didn't have a stage mom. If I wanted to go to audition, I did. If I didn't, she didn't make me go. So there was kind of a balance of kind of normal life, but there was still like not quite normal life because you're like in the studio or on set and working and paying taxes since I was like 10. Um, but my artist friends have been very supportive as well. Um, I feel like people are talking more about their health issues nowadays than like
Mhm.
back in the day. Back in the day, I was always kind of a bit transparent. I feel like that's like part of my personal ministry is transparency because I feel like it makes people feel like they're not alone, and
Mhm.
also you gain knowledge and resources and tips and tools when you share. So I've never been kind of hiding what I have, but I'm definitely more vocal as I get older. And I've encouraged, some of my artist friends to be vocal. Like I have a friend who has MS, and now she kind of talks about it, whereas before she didn't. So that's been like a healthy community, my artist community, and then besides my family and friends. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome too, and awesome, very exciting about your acting career. That's very cool. Someone named, I think it's Durrani, said, "That is so cool. She didn't know that." So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
oh, that's awesome. But it is so important to have that community too, and even if it's not all people who have diabetes, people just who care about you and wanna support you in your journey, and also people too who might be going through, other diseases or illnesses. I think you can all relate and support each other,
Yeah,
in different ways, and getting people to share their stories then too. That's so important because we do all learn from each other, and no journey is the same.
yeah. Let's get
So
myself mental.
yeah, yep.
I was like, I
So
heard some beeping.
it's important to manage it even at this time. Very important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I encourage to everyone who's watching, to share your story just like Nikki is doing here. And so you can do that by visiting us at diabetes.org/blog, or, just sending us a message over social media. We're always here to listen and, be that voice for you as well. And if you ever want to go, live with us or do some sort of event, we'd love to have you share your story. It's so important, and just to continue to build that community.
And if you're in the LA area, um, and you want to get involved, DM me on Instagram at Niketa Kalam, and we'll get you involved in the advocacy committee out here.
That'd be awesome. Yes. Definitely message Nikita for that. That would be great if you'd like to get involved. But yeah, so I mean, you mentioned too, you've seen some changes in diabetes over the years, such as, CGMs. But was there a moment ever that, made you realize that your diabetes was different than before?
Meaning progressing in a better way or
It could be either way. I mean, hopefully there was a moment that maybe made things better, but just, yeah, I guess maybe that
I
aspect
think
is important.
I think the most profound moment for me is actually being pregnant with my daughter. Um, something about like baking a human in your body and you have this like extra amount of responsibility that you want to just be on top of everything. And I felt like my diabetes was in the best it's ever been when I got pregnant.
Really? That's
No,
awesome.
I did have more people watching me and,
Sure.
like which for me, I'm like a good student, so that kinda helped me. But I was in a program called Sweet Success, and they dealt with type 1, type 2, and gestational, all through all trimesters.
Oh,
And I think I saw her once a week throughout my whole pregnancy. Um, and later on, it got to maybe 2 times a week, and it was pretty aggressive because of your hormones and everything,
mhm.
so that could be a reason too, 'cause I feel like I might not have the best sensitivity to insulin, so taking in way more insulin probably helped too, but my A1C was 6.0 the whole pregnancy, and that's like
Wow.
the best it's ever been in
Well,
my whole life.
great. Wow.
So I
No,
was like yeah,
wow, that's awesome though, hearing that too, that, you realized your diabetes was different when you were pregnant because, you were told, like you said before, that some doctors said you couldn't get pregnant
yeah.
while having diabetes, which is untrue. And so that's awesome too that, you were also able to stay healthy throughout it, and able to
She
manage
didn't have
your diabetes
no
through it.
NICU or anything, so
Wow. Well, that's great, and definitely does hit different than before
yeah.
because, goes against with what you were told originally, which
Yeah, yeah.
um
I've heard, some even in the triage room, one of the doctors came in and he was almost in tears. When he found out I was type 1, he was just like, "Oh, this is just such a great story." And, everybody's been kind of talking about you in terms of the 6.0 the whole time. And he said he was encouraged in his younger years in his profession to discourage type 1s from getting pregnant or to encourage abortion
Oh, wow.
with type 1 women. He
Wow.
was just like in tears that it was
He
such
was
a
like,
successful pregnancy
"It's
and
possible."
and he was
Wow,
like with all the tools and management tools is just such a different world than when he first got into his practice.
that's
It wasn't
amazing.
my doctor, but he, like, came into the room because my doctor was, like, the head doctor, and so they were I guess they all talk or whatever. So I was like, "I just had to let you know that I'm so proud of you, and, this is a full moment for me because in the beginning of my practice, this is
He
what they were
didn't
telling
think
me
it
about
was
ones."
Yeah, he didn't think it was possible really either at the time. So wow, that is very inspirational, and that is, different too than before. diabetes is different, hits different today than before.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, that's awesome. So, you've lived with it now for a while. Is there any advice you could give someone who's maybe newly diagnosed today with type 1, or maybe the parents too of a child who's newly diagnosed?
Yeah. Um, I would say, sometimes I speak to the teen power group at Children's Hospital, LA. Um, and some of the concerns that I hear from the teens and some of the things that I say to them that are newly diagnosed is, give yourself grace. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to check in with yourself because sometimes I didn't even realize this in college when I don't know if it's when I'm dropping or when I'm high back then that I would get an attitude, and I didn't even realize it. Um,
Mhm.
so I would kinda talk to the teens and the parents about that, like, if you my mom, when she was going through menopause, just used to say, "If you know that you deep in your heart, you haven't done anything wrong, then just know it might be my menopause." So I say the same to the parents, like, if it's, like, this hangry, like, raging, okay, I know teens go through their thing, but it could be the diabetes, so everybody just give each other grace, room for grace. Um, with the parents, like, I just am thinking back to my mom, um, especially with highs and now that you can follow with the CGM, and so you see their numbers all the time, it does take a while for it
Mhm.
to come down, or it does take a while for it to go up. So it could be a little annoying if you're like, "Did you take did you?" Because you're already feeling bad about it being high in the first place, or, or being low, and just dealing with the disease. So, um, just some breathing room and open communication with your, we call them T3s, the people who take care of, people with diabetes. Um, Open communication, especially the younger ones, because it'll help them be able to communicate later when they're
Mhm.
like in relationships or with their friendships or away from home, away from their parents.
Absolutely. I think that's all very important. And it's so important to especially give yourself grace too and realize, maybe you are having a hard day or a bad day. Like, that's okay.
Stress,
I mean,
stress
it's
is out of
life.
your control.
It's life too, and it's not all in your control, and you have to realize that. And no, you're not going to be perfect. No one's perfect. And just giving yourself the grace, like, okay, it's okay, it's not, this isn't my control, but this isn't, and just doing the best that you really can do, and having that support system too, and them realizing too, it's important for them to realize that you can't be perfect with everything that you're
Yeah,
doing, and some things you can't control. And just like you mentioned too with parents, I like how you mentioned too, it will take a while for
yeah.
your, high
Take
to
a deep
to
breath,
go
maybe come back
down.
in 20
Yeah.
minutes.
And so to not freak out like as much necessarily, and to not put all that pressure necessarily on your child either, because it's already a lot for them. And
Mhm.
there's some things that you're just going to have to wait a little bit, let it
Yeah.
run its course, and
And be
do the
prepared.
best you can.
Mhm.
Know that, but that's all very important. So thank you for sharing that advice,
Yeah.
um, for everyone who's tuning in right now or who will be watching it later. Very important. This has been great though, Niketa. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with anyone tuning in right now? Just
Um,
about your journey or any other, you know,
well, another piece
inspiration?
this is just my personal opinion, is
Sure.
to find a tribe,
Find a tribe.
find people who are kinda going through what you're going through, whether that's, a group on Facebook, or, a parent support group, a newly diagnosed support group, whatever,
Mhm.
because like I said, from 1999 to 2011, I was alone, and I don't suggest that to anybody.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, nobody around me knew what I was going through or could relate to what I was going through, or, saying the wrong stuff like, "Oh, you seem low. Do you need to take some insulin?" Or, "Oh, you're high, are you high? Do you need some sugar?" Just not knowing the right things to say. So it's
Right.
always good to have people who know the language and who know what you're going through. Like Julie, who's on here, who I met in 2011. I've called her randomly, sometimes crying, or, it's just good to have people who, like, know.
It
what
is.
you're going through because
Absolutely.
they're going through it too.
With what technology, brings us today. I mean, even if you don't know someone necessarily in your community, a community you live in now, like there's so many ways you can get connected with people now over the internet, like on
Yeah.
Facebook and just all over, just finding like a support group near you because chances are there is probably multiple. It's just you have to go find them. And thankfully we have technology nowadays that helps with all of that and helps bring us together. But it is very important to have that community and have those people you can support too, and they can support you. It's a team effort, not just one person, and no one should do that alone. So I appreciate you, reiterating that.
Yeah. And if your doctor's not making you feel good or encouraging, switch doctors. Like,
Absolutely.
you
Find a
know,
new
like,
one.
hey, find a new one. It's
Mhm.
okay to fire your doctor and get one that works, but it's a partnership. So
It is.
don't stay in a bad relationship.
Right, exactly. And Julie said we have each other's backs.
Yeah.
Aw, that's awesome, and yes, like you said, you don't have to stick with your one doctor, and you're not gonna necessarily know that maybe your doctor isn't the best for you right away, you might find
Mhm.
that out over time, and
Yeah.
that's okay,
Mhm.
you find someone then who works best for you and your, management and your routine, so that's important, and I think you figure a lot of things out also as you go. You don't know everything right away when you're diagnosed. You do learn things along the way. And I think it's important for people to know too. If you're newly diagnosed, you're not going to know everything right away. Don't stress about it that you have to know everything, right away. You'll learn it as you go and, with your
I'm
support.
23 plus years in, and I'm still learning new stuff.
See, yep, it is a learning process. So, give yourself that grace too. Yeah, but this has been so great, Nikita. And if you could just mention one more time for people tuning in how they could follow you or, get involved, possibly with the advocacy committee down in Southern California with you, would you be able to just let people know again where they can find you?
Yes, so I think Instagram's the best way because in my bio I have a link to like everything else.
Okay.
So if you just go to Instagram and follow me at Nikita Kalam, which my name is up there. So the Harris is not on there, just at Nikita Kalam. Follow me there. And if you want to know ways about getting involved with the ADA, you can also DM me and say that you were on this live and I can point you in the right direction for our next meeting. We actually have a meeting coming up December 6th, I believe. Um, but yeah, and I'll shoot you to the right people to get you linked in.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, definitely reach out to Nikita. She is here to support you also on your journey. That's how we all learn from each other. And so it's always great to be able to, connect people with each other. But thank you for everyone who's been tuning in. This has been just awesome. And thank you to Nikita for sharing your story and being open and, because it is so hard and not everyone wants to share their stories. So we really appreciate that you took the time to share your story with everyone today. This has been wonderful. And if you're tuning in also, American Diabetes Month, there's still some time left of it. And it's just not just a whole month, only 1 month of the year. But if you want to learn more, though, what we are doing for the rest of November, definitely visit diabetes.org/hits different and just learn a little bit more about the resources we have available and some of the different social activations that we're doing throughout the month. And we do still have some more events coming up. So you'll get, all the information right there and you can watch all the recordings of past events there. It's a great place to visit. But yeah, American Diabetes Month, it's only 1 month of the year, but you should definitely, stay involved throughout the whole year because, diabetes doesn't stop and it's going to continue to evolve and we all need to be aware and be there for one another. So definitely stay in touch, but this has been great and thank you so much everyone for joining. It's been
Thank
great.
you for having me and inviting me
Absolutely. We
to share
hope
the
we would
story.
love to have you back again sometime in the future for maybe
Yes,
a part two.
absolutely. I'll be there.
Aw, thank you. Thank you everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your Monday. Bye.